I believe we can get this show on the road. We're about 1 minute early, but we've got a full house. At least the room is getting kind of busy. DePaul's in the room has 858 Bill. Lewis Browning's here. Daniel's here, of course. Stops Manam. John Doe Cycle. Kimberly Keister or Kester. Sorry about that. Earthbound Misfit. We're all kind of earthbound, aren't we? I think so. CyberDoc USA, Leon, SZ41, Huntsville, visiting my brother. Richard Terhune, 3450, checking in from Northern Nevada. And DePaul says it's cloudy and 47 in Staten Island. It hasn't been terribly cold, gets chilly at night, but warms back up during the day. I've got 48 degrees right now in sunshine. I mean, it's blue skies and sunshine. It's gorgeous out, but I can hear the wind. I know it's a bit nippy, as they say. It's a bit nippy. Lewis Browning sent me a link to a Craigslist ad where somebody claimed they had a Hemi Daytona for sale and they wanted like almost nothing for it. A real Hemi Daytona would be worth a lot more than that ad is obviously a fake. Chris Bulldog points out the guy in Florida did get most of his beehives back. That story is still kind of unfolding. But yeah, a bunch of his beehives walked away and then they apparently walked back. So there's more to it than that, but let's just say its story is still ongoing. Ram 50 V8, hi Steve, 57 is sunny here in Harrison, Arkansas. Daryl Watts, Oklahoma in the house. And Tebow Surlet, am I close on that? Greetings from Switzerland. I've been to Switzerland. Switzerland's a great place. They make nice watches. Carl's Corner, Vinny Northwest, hello from Spokane, where as of January 1, you have to pay sales tax when you buy gold or silver. I think a lot of places charge you for it because they just say it's another good like anything else. Although obviously if you're investing in it, it's like saying if you bought like, I don't know, a different currency, would you have to pay tax on it? I've never really looked at that carefully. Levy 13 high from Indiana, I assume. Sunny 59 Central VA. Dan Boyd missed less than a minute. Well, there you go. You'll get one of them good citizenship awards. I am McNathan's checking in, as is Yuka 83 in sunshine in Miami. I'm not sure I've seen Yuka in here before, so I'm always looking for the different names. Emmanuel G, it's Sunday. Yes, indeed it is. Believe in yourself from Napanee, Ontario. Napanee, Ontario. Kenneth Wiggins, hello from Abilene, Texas. Ram 50 V8, did you ever own a Swatch? No, I didn't. I worked at a store that sold them, though. But back then, I couldn't afford one. And later, I didn't want one. funny how your tastes change over time. Oh, Dave McAllister. Davey, hi, Steve from Harrison Hot Springs. Okay. Umeknai? Some of these are hard to figure out. Hi from Winnipeg, Manitoba. Thank you for checking in. Carver Johnson says, currently studying for my law school exams, reviewing UCC 2-314. Greetings from the University of Miami. Of course, 314 is one of the warranty sections. Article 2 is sales. And the question is, law school exams, do you have a class? Is it in contracts that you're studying UCC? Or do you have a class on the UCC? I've heard it being done in both places. Giles Bennett, love the mug on the shelf behind you. Do you sell them? They're on Zazzle, but I don't make any money off them. It's the silliest thing. At one point, I was making money, and then they started charging a service fee that swallows up whatever you make. I leave the thing up there in case anybody wants to buy one, but I literally don't make anything if you buy one of those. But if you want to have one, you can buy one. Go to Zazzle and type in Lehto's Law. You'll find me. Mustang MG05 reminds us that Bay City, Michigan, the commissioner shot down the police request for flock cameras. The citizens have spoken. People are now starting to realize what this is all about, and people are complaining and stopping these things from coming in. And since they cost our tax dollars, we should have a say in it. NZ Kiwi, Monday, 7 a.m. in New Zealand. I love New Zealand. Never been there, but I love New Zealand. I love the idea of it. I've got friends who live there. Someday I will visit. I promise. Someday I will. The prodigal stranger never bought a Swatch, but he bought a cheap knockoff from Croatia. Is it spelled Swatch or is it spelled something else? Believe in yourself. Yeah, zazzle dazzle, your money's gone. Whoosh. Oh, FCCR 1930. I do have one of those mugs. Do you really? I've got one, I think. To me, in a matter of principle, I should be making something off them, but it's a long story. I know people now who are saying things like, "Well, you gotta hire somebody to do your merch for you," and I'm like, "Yeah." And then I wind up with like, "You want to buy a shirt? It's $79.95." Toaster 2120 says my local radio stations have been playing Christmas music for the past week. Yeah, every single year it's a race to see who can start playing Christmas music wall to wall. And I'm not a fan. I was at the bank the other day, and they were tracking some Christmas album on the local station, and I recognize the station because I know some DJs who work at it. But I mean, do I really want to hear "Here Comes Santa Claus" before Thanksgiving? I don't think so. So David Zarodnansky, greetings from cloudy New Jersey. Today is my birthday, but I'm not telling anyone. Oh, well, I'll tell everyone for you, my friend. David has now recorded another orbit around the sun, a cold, uncaring sun. FCCR says, "Hey, don't blame me. I bought my mug back when Steve made almost nothing on them rather than actually nothing." Oh, Andres is checking in from Luleå, Sweden. Chuck Whitehead, I don't see how Razzle Dazzle can do that to your logo. No, no, no. I put them up because at one point in time on Zazzle, if you put stuff on Zazzle and they sold something, you'd get a commission. And then if a little while later they raised the commission, but then or they lowered the commission or they raised the service fees. And so they sell, but the money I make doesn't cover the service fees. So the only thing I could really do myself is I could print a bunch of them and sell them myself. And I don't feel like getting into the merch business just yet because I've got other things to do with my time. So I'm going to tell you right now to make this announcement twice today, but the expanded edition of the Chrysler Turbine car is out. That's my copy. I've written my name on it like an idiot. I've told that story before, but that's another story altogether. But the book is the expanded edition. It has a new forward by Jay Leno, and it's got a big chunk in the back with new photographs and stories, and it tells you everything that happened since the first edition came out. So the first edition came out, I think, in 2012, 2010, something like that. And this is the expanded edition, tells the whole story about rebuilding Jay Leno's car, about the Stahl Museum car, about them making the documentary. And here we are today. So I spoke Tuesday in Roseville for a historical society. Remind me to update you on that also. But I do have some of these books. So if you want one of these books, from me, they cost $25. And that includes shipping, and I will sign it for you. Okay. So hang on. I'm going to give you an email address here. And you email that address. And then you put the word book in the subject line. Book. That's all you do. And that way I'll spot it when it comes in. So email me and say book. And in the subject line, book, underneath it in the body of the text, email, tell me that you want the Turbine Car book. However, just to let you know, I've still got American Murder Houses, which is $15. So Turbine Car is $25, American Murder Houses is $15. And what happens is when you tell me you want one, I will send you a thing through a company called Square. And so you will get an invoice from Square for either $25 or $40 if you order them both. And then you pay that, and then I will sign a book and send it to you. I'm not sure if I'm going to leave this offer very long because when I did this with the American Murder Houses books, I sold 800. And I do them all by hand myself. So I looked at my calendar for next week and I said, I got some time. I can sit around and do stuff. So I'm looking at the back here to make sure I wasn't putting something crazy up on the screen a second ago. But anyway, so if you want a book, email me. If you don't want a book, that's fine. I'm not going to hammer on it because, quite frankly, not everybody's into the books. So there you go. But again, you gotta send me that email at steve@lehtoslaw.com. Tebow Serlette says, will you produce an audio book? No. Um, I've never done that myself. My American Murder Houses book is available as an audiobook, but I didn't do it. My publisher asked me, we've been approached. Somebody wants to put one out. Are you okay? And I said, sure. So I get paid when they sell, but somebody else had to do the voice work. I'm not going to read a book out loud. Hard enough time writing it. Mark Miller says a signed book could be worth more in the future, or it might be devalued because somebody scribbled in the front end of it. You never know. Dan Boyd just saw the interview where Jay's being interviewed about his wife Mavis. Yeah, I saw that also. Was it on CBS? I saw it on YouTube also. But Jay Leno recently gave a fairly lengthy interview with a news person about his wife, and he doesn't talk about her a whole lot, but he takes care of her. And so, for the people who wonder if those Hollywood folk are real or not, Jay is about as real as it gets because of how long he's been married to his wife and he's taking care of her now. And Dan Boyd says Jay Leno's car god. Yeah, at the beginning of the interview, the interviewer says, by the way, maybe not on NBC. By the way, he's got 214 cars. That was the updated number, 214. So, I mean, I remember when it was back in the hundreds. So they add up. And by the way, he also never sells cars. The number's always climbing. It never comes back down again. I've had some people say, hey, Steve, I saw a car that he sold at an auction for charity. Quite often, that's somebody who donates a charity. They donate a car, and they say, hey, Jay, will you get involved in this? And we'll give this away. Maybe you sign it or something. But if you've seen a car in his collection as one of his cars, he still has it. He does that. So Dan Boyd said, I only read printed material when I'm stuck someplace. But the thing about it is that I like books, especially because like these books have got pictures in them. And, sometimes if I want to look at a picture or something, it's not quite the same to pull it up on your phone or something. I don't know. Daniel Kester says your visit on Leno's garage is what led me to your channel. Oh, okay. That's a while ago. Outseeker dude's got a full warehouse going on. Well, he's got 214 cars. He's got over 100 motorcycles, and he's got a full shop with lifts and a dyno room and a paint room. I mean, he's got the whole facility. So AC Moreland says, don't forget about that cottage in Rhode Island he bought because she loved it. Yeah, they were driving along one day out east, and they drove past, and calling it a cottage is an understatement. And they were admiring the house, and they pulled up and basically just said, is this thing for sale? And everything's for sale. And next thing you know, he owns a house back east, as they say. So Jay Klein, I could never read on airplanes. I know people have a hard time also like reading in a car or a bus or anything that's moving, but doesn't bother me any. I've read on airplanes, long flight reading, but then again, it depends if there's any good showing on the old screen in front of me. Jane Tross, 3891. How often does he drive any of them? He drives them all the time. Now, to divide up your time, if you drove each one once a day, it would take him obviously 2/3 of a year almost to drive each one of them. But he does drive them. They're all drivable. That's the key, is that they're all plated and insured, and he has trickle chargers on the ones that are sitting there for any length of time, and he drives them. And I've seen pictures of him driving these goofy cars, and they're not all museum pieces. Many of them are, but many of them are not. Earthbound Misfit says, yeah, 214 cars, but no Ferrari. That's an inside joke for those who like to follow Jay. Jay does not own any Ferraris, and I saw him mention this recently when he was talking to Mr. Osborne about cars, Donald, and he said, I don't have any Ferraris, and they started laughing. And he's mentioned before that he simply kind of got turned off by Ferrari by the attitude that some of the people in the dealerships and so on have, and also even Ferrari itself, but like whether or not you're You're worthy to own one of our cars, you know? And it's like, you build cars, sell them, okay? Once it's like when your children grow up, okay? Once they're out of the house, too bad. Well, once you sell a car, it's gone, you know? So, what are you gonna do? Solaris long haul rail fan. Have you heard the bees are back? Yeah, the bees are back in town. We've talked about that a moment ago. Largely because, like I said, it's an ongoing story still. He has not gotten them all back. Ram 50 V8, have you had a response to your willingness to testify? No, no one has contacted me. I suspect what will happen is somebody's going to tell somebody, you tell somebody, you tell somebody who goes, huh, they're going to look at my video and make a decision about whether they think I'm a goofball or not. Um, but I have been asked by other people to get involved in things, but I only talk about it when there's something. I hate to talk about stuff that could happen because when it doesn't happen, it's disappointment, you know? So Bob blah blah says most of my cars become classics years after I sold them. And today I own many future classics. 858 Bill. Jay not only drives the car, he often puts on coveralls and gets dirty working on them. And he does. He does. And I've told the story before. I visited his garage back in 2010, right around there. And he goes, "You want to go for a ride in a steam car?" I said, "Sure." So he wheels out this 1908 White's steam car, and there's a pilot light underneath it. And he jumps in the ground, climbs underneath it, and he's lighting the pilot light. I turned to one of his guys and go, "Why aren't you doing that?" And he goes, "He likes doing that. Like this is part of the car ownership experience." So Steve G, 9674. I miss every car I sold, including the Pinto. Prodigal Stranger, he's got 2 or 3 mechanics on staff. Yeah, he's got a bunch of guys who work for him. For the longest time, he had a guy named Bernard who retired, who kind of ran the place. Now he's got another guy who runs the place, but he's got George, Dave, and a couple of these guys have specialties. George, I believe, is the engine and trans guy. But these guys, I mean, at his garage, they'll work on almost anything he's got in there. So, yeah, Solaris says Jay also has a lot of steam vehicles. Yeah, he's got a couple steam cars. I believe he's got a steam motorcycle. He's got a turbine car. He's got 2 turbine cars, and he's got a turbine motorcycle as well. So he's got also a bunch of old electric cars and new electric cars. He's got literally a little of everything. So Jay Klein, I wish I'd never sold my '94 Subaru SVX. Image Doc Ray, did you see Leno's new video, which included his Viper? Yeah, and he's got 2 Vipers. And they showed his older, I believe it's the older of the 2. And they spent more time talking about the other 2 cars than they did about the Viper. But yeah, Jay's got a couple Vipers. So, oh, Paul Thomas Harris just saw Jay Leno's magnetic car from the early 1900s. Yeah, like magnetique or something, but yeah, there's something very weird about the way the drivetrain in this one car works. And what's funny is he'll explain this stuff, and his guys will work on it. It's amazing that he's got the stuff in there and that it actually works. AC Moreland, it is his own restoration shop. Life goals. Yeah, and keep in mind that he does videos. If you're unaware of his videos on YouTube, go to Jay Leno's garage, and he does what he calls restoration blogs, but once every month or two, where he'll walk around and show the different projects they're working on. And there'll be some car that's a basket case, and he'll say, "Well, this is what the car is," and we'll get there. And a month or two later, he'll have the car partially reassembled. And I can't remember what the car was. I was so overwhelmed the first time I went to his garage, and I was walking around, and I saw this car that was taken apart, and the drivetrain had, it looked like the gears from a bicycle, from the engine to the rear axle. I forgot what type of car it was. And he said, "Yeah, but I'm rebuilding it." And I saw a video about it later when the car was running. But when I saw it, it was literally just a frame up on blocks that they were redoing. So it's kind of cool to follow those things along as they go. Yeah, Dan Boyd loves the restoration vlogs. Image Doc Ray, the first time I met Jay, he owned 2 cars. Like 1973 or something. Larry T79, you never mentioned the turbo semis, turbine powered semis. Yeah, the turbine engine has been placed in all kinds of stuff. Chrysler put one in a big old box truck. But I'm more familiar with the Chrysler ones, obviously. So, Sir Lawrence Et, I own a Ford Nucleon. Is that nuclear powered? Where do you buy your U235, or do you power it with U238? Amy Deck, Amy Decker. Okay. See, I don't know these things. I'm a new viewer and I appreciate your commentary and conclusions. Well, thank you. I appreciate that for you checking in. I do appreciate that. These live streams on Sundays, which we do almost every Sunday, 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock or thereabouts, are more wide ranging in topic. So out secrets. I never knew you did these. It's like 5 a.m. over here right now. Image Doc races mid 70s. He had his Buick Roadmaster and a Triumph TR4A. So the Triumph must have, I'm guessing it was his second car. The Buick Roadmaster, I believe, is the car he drove to California. And he still has it because I've seen it in his garage. And I believe he slept in when he first got to LA. Oh, Mark Miller, my dad asked if I had a screwdriver so I could take the tags off when my 73 Maverick died. 73 Maverick. Didn't Ford just revive that name and put it on something else? Yeah, leave the car where it died. Richard Terhune, your show is informative and entertaining. Thank you. No sensors. Hi, it's Blue Gremlin driver's license guy. Blue Gremlin driver's license guy. Just wishing you well and thanks. I like the show. Chuck Whitehead, any Christmas decorations? Yeah, I've got a neighbor, few houses down, who's done the entire roof and blinking lights. That doesn't bother me as much as the Christmas music wall to wall on radio stations before Thanksgiving. Just seems too soon. Too soon. Christopher McCarran, no chainsawing today. Nah, haven't had the chainsaw out lately. Although I think the brush cutter might make an appearance this upcoming week. I got some stuff. When the leaves are off the trees, I can see the brush better, and I get a better idea what needs to be removed. So, yeah, Earthbound Misfit, the Maverick is now a truck, which is blasphemy. Hey, the Mustang's a four-door and electric. No sensors. I meant I learned to drive in a blue Gremlin. Oh, okay. Well, I did my driver's test in a green Gremlin. Sometimes you just got to do what you got to do. Earthbound Misfits, you need a bro hug. No, last one I got will last me for about a year or two. Jay DeRue, have you talked about Whistling Diesel's tax charges? Remember you talking about the Montana loophole. There have been two things going on lately, and I haven't followed that closely, involving the Montana license plate thing and then also about altering the emissions on trucks. I haven't gotten into either one of those. If somebody has a YouTube channel, especially a very successful one, I'm not going to get involved in their story, just because I'm assuming they can do that themselves because they've got a bigger platform than I do. So, Amy Decker, okay, just got a 2011 Jeep Patriot, and my coworker got a new head, radiator, and more done to it before the buy. Now I put a battery, alternator, and heater core. So much work, but it's still cheaper than new. Well, yeah, assuming you're done with the work. By the way, I picked up my Viper yesterday. I had taken it to Mark Lieberman's Nostalgic Motoring because the battery died. The battery was 7 years old. And while I was in there, I said, by the way, slapping a new battery, but I want you to go through it front to back, everything and anything that you think it needs. So oil change, filters, all that stuff. And his mechanic drove it and goes, Steve, what are your thoughts on that clutch? I said, well, I'm not emotionally attached to it. Why? And he said, you probably should replace it. So I did, in fact. So I've got a Viper. It's in the garage now. I might get it out once or twice more this year, but it's going to be a tight one. But it runs like a Swiss watch. So it's nice. I drove it back yesterday. I had a camera in the car with me. I might put a video up on my backup channel of me driving the Viper and just blathering away as I so often do when I'm out driving. So Miko Angel QW, what's your favorite food? Favorite food? There's a bunch of things I like. But I mean, I have a favorite restaurant I go to, and they've got a filet mignon that'll get me coming back every time. So, Jay Brown 468. Have you seen the guy who converted his Viper to an off-road Viper? It's absurd. Yes, I've seen that. People do all kinds of crazy stuff. And I've seen that. And it's like, okay. Dan Boyd, did you stall it the first time you drove it with a new clutch? You can't stall a Viper. What are you talking about? That thing's got so much torque. You can just put it in gear and let go of the clutch, and it'll take off. You're not going to stall it. No. Devin Ruckus saw that off-road Viper in the wild down the street from the Peterson Museum. Interesting. I love the Peterson Museum. It's a cool museum. But if you ever get a chance to go there, see if you can get yourself a tour of the vault, which is where they park the stuff that's not on display. Because at any given time, they've got about half the cool stuff, just no room for it. So, and you can find some very nice videos online of tours of the Peterson, like where somebody walks through the Peterson for like an hour and a half, every single car. So you can see them all, at least all the ones that are on display. So. Etchipuff, the old block toys 3387. Hi, Steve. First time catching you live. I'm trying to see if I can make any a chip off the old block toys. I'm like, what is that? Oh. Femur 15 rental units had a yellow Rambler with a push button tranny. Yeah, it's amazing what was in the past. Saw a Kaiser Darren at Mark's place yesterday. The one that's got the doors that go into the fenders, fiberglass body. Really cool car. Really cool. Smaller than I remembered. I've seen a couple of them in museums, but Devin Ruckus says the vault was amazing. Stopped in after a cannonball run back in April. Yeah, Leslie Kendall is the guy who works the Peterson. Really, really nice guy. He's the guy who gave me the tour a couple of years back. Chuck Whitehead, you're going to keep any pennies you get. 2025. I'm hanging on to my change. I've got a couple of change jars I just throw change into. But I have a sneaky feeling pennies might come back. Ain't nothing permanent in this world. And I think a lot of people, when they start getting rounded up at the store, will be upset by this. And I wouldn't be surprised if pennies come back. But we'll see. Dan Boyd pocket doors on the Kaiser Darren pocket doors. Yes. Mexican Spec, good morning, Steve. And I was glad you're here because it almost matches perfectly. And the funny part is I've got a stack of these, and there's 4 colors that alternate, and the top and the bottom are both purple. And I thought, you know something? It is meant to be. Daniel Kester, my first car was a 65 T-Bird. Brenda Jackson, I just bought a 1968 Plymouth Satellite, one owner, all original, all the records. That's very cool. My favorite year of that is this 1970. The 68, 69, 70 look a lot alike, but I like the front end of the 70, and I also like the tail lights better on the 70. Obviously, a Roadrunner or a GTX would be nice. Convertible may or may not be nice. And, of course, the Superbird would be nice too, but Outseeker says inflation will delete all low-value currency eventually. Probably. Oh yeah, just go to one of those countries where they've got notes to say like, 1 million of something, Earthbound missed it. Rounding up's already started where I live. Well, it depends on where you go. I've been to some stores where they consciously were doing that a month ago. I mean, here you go, boom. And I mean, but I've been to other places where I still get pennies in my change. So we'll see what happens. Johnny Z. Fraley, my first car was a 72 Le Mans. It got 6 gallons to a mile. My brother had a Buick Riviera. It was a 65 Riviera, and it had a 401. And he found these Offenhauser intake manifolds that allowed you to put 6 2-barrel carburetors on a 401 Buick. That thing guzzled gasoline like it was nobody's business. And I forgot if you ever did the official mileage, but it was single digits. It was single digits. Taylor Bailey, I had a 74 green Gremlin X with a white stripe. I still miss it. My other brother had a Gremlin X, and I forgot what it had in it. And it got around okay, but it was a Gremlin. Beaumonte, greetings from Manhattan Beach, California. I love Manhattan Beach. Manhattan Beach was my favorite beach in California when I went to law school out there. Used to spend a lot of time at Manhattan Beach. It's a neat little community. The beach is beautiful. The pier is nice. The scenery is great. I remember being there before with those gigantic waves. Oh my! I loved Manhattan Beach. In fact, last month to California, I made a point of just driving by and looking at it. I didn't have time to stop, but I drove by. Mexican specs. I've seen videos saying the last pennies will be valuable. Why would they be? Well, they're talking about taking the very last ones minted and certifying them and saying these are the last 5 minted. And things like that can be valuable to collectors, but simply having one dated 2025 isn't gonna be worth that much because they make so many of them. So we'll see. We'll see. But there you go. Outseeker 6 2-barrel carbs. Yeah, no, it was comical because you got the velocity stack sticking through the hood. And to choke it on a cold day, somebody like me would have to go outside and put my hands over the 2 center stacks, which are the primaries. And the second it started, I'd let go because it didn't have a manual choke. Oh boy. Blah blah blah. 8 miles per gallon was normal. Well, there were some cars back then where a land yacht, 6,000 pounds, a solid cast iron frame, and just the hood weighs 500 pounds. I am McNaith. My favorite car was my 68 Chevy Nova SS Super Sport. I also liked all the Yenko stuff. Remember Yenko? Yenko Camaro, Yenko Nova, Yenko Corvair. And it was just a guy who sold enough cars, and GM trusted him to hop them up and sell them out of his dealership. And so you could get yourself some pretty cool Yenko stuff. There's a couple car shows I go to quite a bit. There's one in Flint, Michigan every year. And because it's General Motors' backyard, the number of GM cars there are outsized. And I've been there before. They had a whole row of Yenko cars, real ones. Very, very cool. So Image Doc races in the new video. Jay said it's about $25,000 per tire for the Veyron. So it means it's probably something like $8 per mile for the tires. When you got to spend $25,000 per tire to get the tires replaced on your car, you've got too much money. You actually have too much money. I'm not saying anything wrong with that. MHO8 says, don't forget that we used to have 2 mail deliveries a day. There's the morning mail and the afternoon mail, and then only once on a Saturday. Now my mailman looks like someone who's a homeless dude talking to himself. Oh. Amy Decker, okay, so my local on cue already started doing the no penny thing. It rounded to where it gave me extra pennies back to make it 05. Oh, it can work both ways, theoretically. Theoretically. It doesn't feel like it though. It just doesn't feel like it. LGRFBS. Hi from Sweden. Is all good? All is good, my friend. Thank you for asking. Old Bill Overhill says nothing like being ignored. Um, well, let me see. You asked a question. How about a 62 Thunderbird? Okay. Did you ask anything else? Good thing you didn't get burned, Steve Lehto. What on choking my brother's 6.2 barrels? It'd only be if it backfired. My brother's car wasn't going to backfire. So Isaac Bob York is also from Sweden. We got Sweden in the house. Andrew Grujowski, 91 Benz, 92 Audi. Hey, the creativist. Hello from Traverse City area. Where? I love Traverse City. I spent a lot of time up there. My brother lived in Grawn, down near Chum's Corners, not far from Interlaken. And I know people who have places like, say, on the Old Mission Peninsula or the Leelanau Peninsula, or Harbor Springs. Go up there all the time. I love that area up there. And then I see partial sentences. I'm not sure what's going on. So, Sir Lawrence E.T. or Sir Lawrence T. My mother's parents were born in Sweden. All my great grandparents were born in Finland. All of them. So, Terrell Cockram, 8472. Hello from Cadillac, Michigan. Cadillac, ack. Been through there many, many times. If you're going to the Traverse City area, you often go up and cut across, cut through Cadillac. So there you go. Gary Thorin, not from Sweden, but I'm Swedish. Hello from Iowa. The Prodigal Stranger 5259 is the booze from the Traverse City Distillery any good? I used to have a bottle of theirs on my set. As you may know, I'm not a heavy booze drinker. So I can't say, like, well, in my experience, it's good stuff. But I understand that people who do know more than I do about alcohol and its taste say it's good stuff. And I support them because they are from Traverse City. And I've talked to them. And I've told the story one time before. During COVID, I was masked up and I maybe even wearing a hat. And I walked into the Traverse City Distillery and I'm talking. And somebody goes, Steve Lehto, like this. And I'm like, because I thought somebody who knew me. And I look at the guy and the guy goes, you're Steve Lehto. And I go, but who are you? And he goes, you don't know me. I watch your videos. And I have a hat on and a mask on. Like, I'm like, how'd you know it was me? Because I recognize your voice. And I'm like, what? So I felt obligated. I bought some alcohol. Earthbound Misfit. I don't like brown liquor. Well, they sell vodka. It's about as clear as it gets. It looks like water. DePaul, I have a bottle of Traverse City bourbon. Aaron Freeman, 5264. When your great grandparents were in Finland, does that make you Russian? Well, no, because Finland was a duchy. So it was, although under the thumb of Russia. But many people, as you may know, trace their identity to their language, and they spoke Finnish. But to be fully transparent here, my great-grandfather served some time in the Russian army, didn't speak any Russian. His commanders spoke no Finnish. Image Doc Ray, have you ever been lucky enough to get a ride in a Koenigsegg? No. I've gotten to climb around a Pagani before, and I've looked at some other cool cars up close, but never gotten a ride in one. No. Tim Nossum, what car got away that you wish you would have bought? You know, I when I was younger, I was just lucky if I could buy a car. I don't think I actually had got away. I don't really know of any. I know friends who have, but you know, or they saw a car someplace like in a barn and went back later and it was gone, and they wonder, you know, what happened to it. Old Paint 71 just got into Menominee from Cadillac, windy at the bridge. Yeah, if you're crossing the Mackinac Bridge today, they say the wind is quite harsh. Got to be very careful. Drive slow and stay to the center. Janie Segrest, I'm walking my dog and listening to Steve Lehto live. 1:38, my time. Roxanne, what a cool story about the alcohol. What's weird is I do get recognized places, and even if you can see my face, I find that odd. But it's nice meeting people. I mentioned I spoke last week in Roseville to the Historical Society. I've got a PowerPoint presentation I do about the Chrysler Turbine car, and as I mentioned earlier, the new book is now out. And I mentioned earlier how you can get one. So you want to go back at the top and follow those instructions. I'll say it again at the end. But I spoke to a big group of people in Roseville, and I had mentioned it during, I think, last week's live stream and said, I'll be speaking in Roseville. And if you're in the area, I had 6 people show up who said, I came just because I follow you on YouTube and you mentioned it. And one guy drove from quite a distance away. He told me where he came from. I'm like, whoa, I'm not sure I'd have driven that far for anybody, but Fred Blowers, 9141. Sisu 2, I've got to mention, I saw it last night. I mentioned before, I had to see Sisu 2 because this is the opening weekend. If you liked Sisu, the original movie, this second one is amazing. I'm not going to say it's as good as the first, but it's as good as a sequel can be expected to be. It is very, very good. I consider Sisu, the movie, to be magnificent. On a scale of 1 to 10, I give it 11. I give Sisu 2 on a scale of 1 to 10, a 10. um, I don't want to give any of it away, but this time it's not the Germans, it's the Russians. And you can tell that the people behind the movie are Finns. And I mean, you're gonna say, but Steve, that's obvious. No, 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 you don't understand. You can have a movie about something shot in Hollywood and it comes out completely wacky because of Hollywood. This movie was shot by Finns, and it was very, very obviously as Finnish as a movie can be. And so there were scenes in there where I was looking at the screen going, a Hollywood movie never would have done it this way. But the way they did it is perfect. Absolutely perfect. So if you get a chance to see Sisu 2, go see it. It is indescribable. It is indescribable. Dan Boyd got to sit in a kit Cobra at an auto expo once. Do you know what the kit was? Because there's good kits, bad kits, and then there's also just ones that are built by companies that build them. Peter Nichols, 3001. I love your YouTube channel. Very informative from Columbia, Missouri. Well, thank you for checking, my friend. Thank you for letting me know. Mike Lackner, I'm here. This is more fun than helping my wife organize a tool shed. If she asks, y'all need me here. Defin 2007. Thanks for signing my book on Tuesday. So there's confirmation that people showed up at my talk. Actually, we had a huge audience. There were people standing. And it was held in a school in Roseville in their like multi-purpose multimedia room. They had a big screen and then tables and desks, and every single seat was taken. They brought in some more. It was a great event. The host people were very, very nice, very, very attentive. But the cool thing is that a lot of people in the audience had connections to Chrysler, which is always neat. When I speak in the Detroit area, I often get people walk up and say, excuse me, I worked at Chrysler. I remember these cars. Now, a lot of those people, unfortunately, are passing away. But I met some people in Roseville who were working at Chrysler at the tail end of the program. So the Prodigal Stranger says, I see a double feature with more fans. Could be a good dry run for the Coyote versus Acme. Sisu and Sisu 2 is a double header. That'd be a lot of fun. So Amy Decker, okay, so I used to work serving food and alcohol. The drinks smelled so fruity and yummy. We serve fruity beers, margaritas, wine, etc. Yeah, that's a funny thing about alcohol. Some of it you can taste, some of it you can't. Some drinks do taste good. I'll admit, I've been sitting on a beach in the Caribbean, and somebody comes by and goes, "Do you want, a drink that's got an umbrella or something in it? You know, something. What else are you gonna do? I'm not driving today. You order one, you drink it. It fits the mood perfectly. But yeah." Isaac Bob York says there's a Finnish Star Trek spoof called Star Wreck, all made by Finns in Finnish. I'll have to check that out. I'm not aware of that. Jay Klein, I've been in the local news a couple times, and then I got messages from everyone I went to school with. Well, I've mentioned before that when Jay Leno what first got him and me connected was that there was an ad in a newspaper that said that my book Death's Door made a great Christmas gift. And someone sent it to Jay, and Jay showed it on camera for like 3 seconds and said, "Hey, give this to grandma, Death's Door." And it was this part of his headlines segment. That segment ran, you know, at night. The next morning, my phone was blowing up. And this is like 2008. And I saw you on the Tonight Show. I'm like, I wasn't on the Tonight Show. Like, no, but my name was this big on an ad this big but it's amazing the reach of modern media. So, Earthbound Misfit, vodka and orange juice for the win. The simplest drink of all. RJJ, but did Sissa get revenge for the Germans blowing up his horse? Well, the horse was a hero, and the dog survived, as you'll recall. And I'm not giving too much away because we're talking about the first movie. And the horse, that was a painful moment. It was. But he got revenge against those Germans for that. Now, in the second movie, like I said, it's the Russians. And they introduce a whole new, it makes complete sense. They introduce something which the second you hear it go, oh, that makes sense. It makes sense. So, Image Doc Ray, when you're in Los Angeles for law school, were you able to catch any great concerts? No, I only saw one concert the whole time I was out there. I went and saw my friend's band Figures on a Beach. And Figures on a Beach is from Detroit. They broke up a few years ago. They had a record deal. They put out a couple records. They had a song that charted with their remake of You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet, the Bachman Turner Overdrive song. And they were touring in 1990. In fact, I played them on the radio before I went to law school. And I was out in law school in California listening to KROQ Los Angeles. And I heard them advertising that Figures on a Beach will be playing someplace in Hollywood. And I went and saw them. And I had no way of getting a hold of my friend who was in the band, Rick Rolski, the guitar player. So I just went to the show. And it was general admission. So I worked my way up the front of the stage. And Rick's up there playing guitar, and he looks down and he recognized me out of context. Goes, Steve. And that was even more surprising to me than people recognizing me off of YouTube, because he last saw me in Michigan. He then moved to Boston, and I'd spoken to him in Boston, but not since I went to law school. So he had no idea I was in California. And so when he's in California playing a concert and he recognizes me in the front row in the middle of a song, pretty impressive. And then what happens after that is when the show ended, I walked around back and I gave a note to a security guard, and I said, "Can you please give this to the guitar player? He's a friend of mine." The guy's like, "Yeah, right, whatever." And a few minutes later, he comes back out and he goes, come on. And I got to go backstage and hang out with him for a while. It's a lot of fun. So, K-Rock, Andrew Kruchowski. Dan Boyd, I haven't even looked outside today. Thankful John, thanks for all the great content. I appreciate you, bud. Keep up the good, solid work. Carrie Mache, Rick Rolski, Rolski, Rolski. Yes, that is his name. Andrew Kruchowski, so when you had the overturned car on the road, how'd you flip it over? Didn't you watch the video? I tell the story. Desperate times call for desperate measures. Russell Hall 5065. There is a YouTuber named Camelot 332 who had a large number of super chats refunded. $20,000. Now YouTube is charging him, including their cut. I'm unaware of that. I'm not sure, but I do know there's always the risk anytime you get involved with credit cards as to what happens when they get refunded, or somebody puts in a dispute. So I mentioned earlier I'm selling books, and that's via Square, which uses credit cards. In the entire time I've used Square, I've never had a single person contest one of the charges. It'd be kind of a dumb thing to do because I've got tracking on the mail and I'd be able to prove they got it. But anyway, DePaul, I saw Lady Gaga and U2 at the Hollywood Bowl for Bill Clinton's 65th birthday. Oh boy. Russell Hall says that's Camelot 331. Okay. Sorry. Carrie Mache, do you know about the Rick Roll meme? Of course, but the Rick Rolls came out in what, the 90s or 2000s? And I believe Rick Rolski's had his name since the 1960s. So that happens. Dan Boyd, it's nice and sunny out here. And FCCR 1932 says on Father's Day, we went to a steakhouse for brunch and they had a manmosa on the menu, which they described as vodka and orange juice. I wonder if they didn't know or they expected their customers to not know of the screwdriver. Or as a marketing joke, they were thinking that guys could order that and go, well, hey, it's a manmosa. You're drinking a mimosa. I can drink a manmosa. Big old jug. The creativist says the Lions are losing the worst team in the NFL. I still have mixed feelings. Mixed feelings about the Lions. I know they did decently last year and occasionally do well this year, but I have a lifetime of the Lions, getting our hopes up that it's going to take a while. I'm suffering from PTSD from the Lions. Johnny Z. Bradley, it's sunny here in Lebanon, Missouri. There's now a discussion going on about Rick Astley. Rick Astley. No relation to John Astley, I don't believe. And Carrie Mache says his name is Rick Ashley. Amy Decker, okay, says first concert I went to was Blood, Sweat, and Tears. You've made me so very happy. I've seen Skillet and Core many times. Once went to see Tech Nine and Cottonmouth Kings, and it was different. I've mentioned last week I've this year seen 13 shows. Last year I saw 15. I think it might be 13 as a max this year. I don't know if I'll see any more or not. But I started going to shows again about 5 years ago. I said, I loved going to shows. I'm gonna start going to shows again. Earthbound Misfit says, no, it's Astley. So we don't know if the Ashley was a typo or an actual, no, you guys are misspelling that. Janie Segrest, at least you're not a Bears fan. There are some teams that just long suffering fans. But, somewhere along the way, they need to come around. And so, when I was growing up, the Pistons were bad, the Red Wings are bad, the Lions are bad. And somewhere along the line, the Pistons got good. When I was in law school, the Pistons were good. I got to rub it in when they beat the Lakers. And then the Red Wings got good. And it's just the Lions. Now, the Lions haven't been good since 1953. Oh. Janie Segrest is a Bears fan and a Cubs fan. And again, being a Cubs fan is one of those things where you're long suffering, right? Bob D2659 used to go to 50 to 60 concerts a year, but it was for work. What kind of work? I was talking to a guy. I was sitting in the second row at the Elvis Costello concert at Royal Oak about a month ago. And there's a guy there guarding the door who's security. And I'd seen him at a recent show someplace else. So I walked over and started talking to him, and he works for the promoter. And he told me how many shows he went to every year, but he goes to shows. He does security for U of M football games, Detroit Lions football games, and also some Detroit Pistons games. And so he gets to, he's working, but he is attending all of these things. So it's a pretty cool job. MH08, I could never be a Red Wings fan. Is there a reason? Or Dan Boyd, the Bears kicked butt. Yeah. Don't forget about the refrigerator. The guy weighs 9,000 pounds. Give it to him. Let's see if anybody can tackle him. Carrie Mache, love Elvis Costello. Yeah, Elvis is good. I like Elvis a lot. Out Secrets is kind of hard to watch sports when you're on the clock, or just anything like that. Oh, Bob D was doing various work: audio, lighting, carpentry, load in, load out, follow spot. It's great. So yeah, the behind the scenes stuff. That's pretty cool. The Prodigal Strangers is just end of the season. Well, you understand that in England, they've got Premier League soccer, okay? And if you don't do very well, they'll drop you into the next league down. And the best teams from the lower league get to go up, and they call it relegation. And the whole point is that you have to play well, or you might wind up in the minor leagues. And the minor league teams play really, really hard in the hope that they can get up in the upper leagues. And if you are an NFL team and you're horrible, you don't care. You can be in the cellar for decades. Nobody cares. You still get a slice of the money. Everything else, it's like, what? They need to have a secondary league that they can punish you in, make you go play in some town that, godforsaken corner of the planet, make you sorry you are no good. Chris Bulldog, I know a bunch of EMTs who used to work shows at the Boston Garden. Yeah. Image Doc Ray, for 30 years, I photographed 100 concerts per year. And that means you got good access, right? Running around up like front of the stage and side of the stage and stuff. That'd be really cool. The Creativist says Twitch is now forcing Europeans to scan their faces to get adult content. Do you believe that? I don't know if I believe it. I'm not sure what Twitch is. Is it something the kids are doing? I don't know what Twitch is. I've heard of it. I think it's like Snap WhatsApp or something. Huh? Oh, boy. David Zernansky says he used to do lighting and costumes and set design for a radio show. Oh, boy. Mark Miller, I've heard that NFL teams sell personal information as part of their revenue streams. I wouldn't be surprised if they get information somehow. Nowadays, everything's for sale. Just assume it is. Assume it is. Carrie Mache says that Twitch is live streaming. It's a gaming platform, but it can be sexy too. Daniel Kester played football in high school for 2 years. The only 2 years the high school got to the state finals. Very cool. Old Paint 71, Barry Sanders, all that work with no ring. Barry Sanders, I'm telling you, even if you don't like football, go to YouTube and type in Barry Sanders highlight reel. You'll find a couple of them. And they've just strung together all of his plays where he's doing things that seem physically impossible. There's 12 guys on him somehow, and he pops out the other side and keeps running. Like he went through them like an electron or something. And he'll run at the line and bounce off it and then run sideways and then run downfield. And he's so fast, and it's insane watching him. But he played for the Lions, and the Lions were horrible at the time. So the only highlights were Barry Sanders highlight reels. So, one guy can't make or break a team like that. Dan Boyd liked Barry as well. Rambler CDT says pilot stops skydiver jumping from hot air balloon. We would have all died. You might like this one. I'm not familiar with that one, but I'll take a look at it. Garden State Accountability. Hello, Steve! Exclamation mark. And hello, my friend, to you too. Oh, Mark Miller. So don't forget about Billy Sims. I met Billy Sims. Billy Sims was Barry Sanders before Barry Sanders was, but Sims had a knee injury. Billy Sims lived in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, not far from where I grew up, and he came into my gas station once. And he rolls in to get gas on a weeknight. I don't know if it was off season or not, but driving a beautiful, I believe it was a Bronco. But to get gas, my friend walks in to the, he puts the nozzle in to fill it up, walks into the area where the cashier and all it is. He says, "Hey guys, it's Billy Sims out there." I'm like, "Really?" Go walking out there and go, "Mr. Sims, big fan." Shook his hand. Very, very nice guy. And he guys like that, they get that everywhere they go, and after a while they get sick of it. But you know something? Nice guy. Oh boy. Amy Decker, okay, says Twitch is on fire with controversy. Dan, the CEO, is a different kind of guy. He's hilariously goofy and likes to hang out with the younger ladies. Lion Zookeeper, did you recently hear that Bay City, Michigan, City Council rejected flock cameras? I think we mentioned it at the top of the show. Mustang MG05, maybe, or somebody mentioned it earlier. But yes. And I'm glad because it shows that people are paying attention. So, gonna drink some Gatorade here, my friends. It's still doing okay, but if I don't get ahead of it, my throat will start getting dry and scratchy. Earthbound Misfit, someone here had over 10,000 tires stored illegally. They caught fire. Now the EPA is not happy. Tires are a problem. And I often ride my mountain bike on the dirt roads around where I live. I live on a dirt road in a tar paper shack. And there's a road just out in the middle of nowhere. There's a piece of undeveloped property on one side of it. There's a couple houses near it, but there's a ditch with cattails and stuff growing in it. And last year I'm riding my bike by there, and one day there's a big pile of tires. Some ass just pulled over and just threw like 50 tires in the ditch and then just drove off. Oh, someone else will take care of that. It's like, oh God. Image Doc Ray, I got drunk with Jim Plunkett once. That's old school, right? He's an older guy, right? Back in the old days. Was he a kicker? A punter? Someone help me out. Patriot Lighting said graduated high school in Birmingham, Alabama in 1981. I grew up in Birmingham, Michigan, but was lucky enough, or not, to get to play or compete against Bo Jackson when he played at McAdory High School and Charles Barkley when he played at Leeds High School. I bet those guys are dominant at that age, right? Rock since is a big issue with tires. They attract bugs. Well, what happens is no matter how you lay a tire, if you get water inside of it, the water will stay there because it doesn't evaporate properly. And mosquitoes do love laying their eggs in tires. Yeah, Out Secrets, the stagnant water they collect. I believe that is correct. Plunkett was a quarterback. Who am I thinking of? Somebody else got a name similar to that. Oh, and a Heisman winner, Jim Plunkett. Am I listening to the right time frame? Is this a while back? I never watched high school. I never watched football, NFL football, when I was a kid. Literally mid-20s before I even watched a game on TV more than once. Oh, Mike 70. Yeah, so the Patriots and the Raiders in the early 80s. So yeah, so it was a while back for me. Okay, I got that right. So maybe I was just wrong on thinking for some odd reason I thought he's a kicker, but okay. Glenn, so 47. This is the earliest I've been late all day. Dan Boyd, I never watched football until college. No, interestingly, I became a fan of Michigan football when I was in junior high, and I watched Michigan football all through junior high and high school. I didn't go to Michigan. I had friends who did, but I've always followed Michigan football. They're not going to do so well this year. I mean, they've pulled a few out that were close, but the last few years they did so well, it makes up for it. So Jay Klein said I hung out with the guys from Hayseed Dixie in Denmark until about 5 a.m. Okay, I've heard of Denmark, never heard of Hayseed Dixie. Yeah, Arts 4014 says my neighbor who's got a farm got a gift of a load of dead tires. Yeah, and now what's he gonna do with them? You know, and the city of Detroit, for instance, had a massive dumping problem, and people would just find a vacant lot and just dump stuff on it. They clean the lot up, and somebody else come and dump something else on it. When they catch people dumping illegally, they need to go to jail. Uh, Whoa there, 6143 says Billy Sims has barbecue restaurants in Oklahoma now. They're very good. I think I remember hearing that, but I wasn't sure they're still around or not. Jolene Reddick, what remedy can you take if you have a flat fee from the beginning to end with your attorney, but the judge let him withdraw? I can't even get near that. It's going to vary wildly from state to state. But many states have got rules that say specifically that an attorney has to earn a fee, even if you describe it as something else. So I've heard of somebody who said, my attorney charged me a flat fee, non refundable retainer up front. I gave him the money, and then we got in a fight. Never worked for him, but he kept the money. And in some places, that would be wrong. I'm not saying that's what happened with you. I'm just simply pointing out that there are issues that arise. So, unfortunately, you need to consult an attorney. So, but oh, Andy New York says the garage that illegally dumped the tires probably charge your customers a disposal fee. Yeah, no, that's the crazy part. It's just the real weird problem is they have not figured out a good thing to do with used tires yet. When somebody figures out something that can be done with used tires to, and I've seen people trying, okay, but obviously nothing's quite caught yet. Peter Estrada says Hayseed Dixie is an AC/DC cover band in Australia. Okay. Stuff writer, when you tell people that you're not licensed outside of Michigan, do they say, well, get a license in my state? No. They say, well, pretend I'm in Michigan. Hey, pretend you know the answer. I get those every single day. People want help. And I'm sorry. I always say, I'm sorry, I can't help you. Image Doc Ray, I have found that graduates of Southwestern's accelerated program are particularly high quality lawyers. Do you agree? Any opinions on why? Well, I mean, if you're referring to the scale program that I went through, I can only tell you about my personal experience and the friends of mine. The question is, how many of us have you encountered? This is a fairly small program, and most of their graduates stay in California because most of them started out there. I went there from Michigan and came back. FCCR says mulch tires become playground mulch. Oh, they've got things that they can do with them, but obviously it's not a moneymaker yet. Otherwise, people will be running around trying to get the tires. Sir Lawrence T. Hey, Steve, I'm on the run from a murder rap in Reno. Can you give me legal advice? Yeah, escape to Michigan. We'll talk. Pretend you're a doctor. Should I get surgery in my back? JJJMMM1. Oh, Mark Miller, then they get crabby. Oh, you have no idea. I've had somebody write me like foul, obscene emails. Um, so hey, Scraw, sorry if I'm changing the subject. To what? NZ Kiwi says in New Zealand they use a hammer mill, chop up the tires, and they put them back into road making. I've seen where they've done things. They mix in the ground up tires to make a surface like asphalt. But the problem is apparently it's still so expensive that it's like I said, if somebody figured out like something that made the tires valuable, then you'd go. This is actually, let's finish this up pouring. It's watered down yellow green Gatorade, whatever flavor that is. It's like basic Gatorade. Hey, Scross, you missed my first message. Okay. I assume that. Oh, you want me to dive a little deeper into the subject here? I might in another video, but I'm not going to here. There's I've done videos in the past where border patrol, we tend to think of working at the border. As I pointed out, the border is simply a line. It's an imaginary line. It's usually dotted. And border patrol has authority to actually operate so many miles inland from the border, assuming that the border is near water. Okay. And if you look at a map of many states like Michigan, if they draw the line in far enough, it actually encompasses almost the entire state. So border patrol can be in Detroit or Ann Arbor and go, yeah, we're doing border patrol work here. Well, the border's that way, guys. Doesn't matter, you know. And I think that is a concern many people have. Dan Boyd says he likes to drink the Gatorade straight. I water it down because I tend to drink a whole thermos of it. But if I drank 2 bottles of Gatorade in this time, I'd probably get a sugar buzz going. So I purposely didn't mention the number. And Russell 3380 says 100 miles. And Carl's Corner says 200 miles. So that's why I don't use numbers. I often say things like, so many miles. Out Secrets, I want to see a sugar buzz, Steve. I don't know if the video's still up or not. I may have taken it down. But the video I did where I compared the maple syrup. I did a lot of experimental videos in the first few years of my channel. And people have sent in maple syrup. And so I decided to do a taste test of the maple syrup. And so I put the maple syrup in shot glasses. And it's either 7 or 8 maple syrups. And I numbered them. And I did them randomly so I wouldn't know which one was which. And I guzzled them. And then I put them in order. And it was beyond a headache. It was a combination of like it got my stomach also, but it wasn't a typical stomach ache because it wasn't. If you took all 8 shot glasses, it wasn't that much. But imagine guzzling maple syrup. But my brain was just freewheeling for a little while. It was bad. It was bad. Ram 50V8 says, I remember seeing the maple syrup video. Yeah, these are things that years from people be talking about. You remember that video? I don't know if it, like I said, it might not be up anymore. Bob D says 8 shots of maple syrup lightweight. Well, it was a taste test. And by the way, some people had only sent me small samples. It's like I can't drink a bigger sample of something. Chuck Whitehead, my dad had us use sugar-free maple syrup. Oh. PDX yada yada. Do you get lake effect snow? Michigan gets a lot of lake effect snow. It depends on how close you are to the lake. But I mean, Grand Rapids, up and on the west coast of Michigan in particular, heavy lake effect snow. Upper Peninsula gets it all over the place. But yeah, it's primarily along the coast of Lake Michigan. and Lake Superior. Patriot Lightning, does your reputation precede you? Do dealers and automakers fold when they learn you're the plaintiff's attorney? No, our community is so small that we all know each other. I mean, when I file a lawsuit against a manufacturer, I know who the attorney is going to be. And so it's not like, oh my God, it's Steve Lehto. Like, oh, Steve. They call me, hey, Steve, I got your latest case. What's it all about? But yeah, it doesn't happen a lot. Mark Miller says David Letterman did that same sample type thing with olive oil. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Yeah, Russell Hall says that's like alcohol-free alcohol, having a sugar-free maple syrup. Alex A, ND3Y, what do you gain by taking videos down? If a video is doing poorly, like nobody's watching it, I take it down because I think that what happens is if you're watching my channel looking for my videos, you're not going to watch them all. No one does. So if there's a bunch of bad videos and a bunch of good videos, and I remove the bad ones, you're more likely to get recommended good ones. It's not gaining me anything, I don't think, but it's helping me, I think. But it's a theory of mine. Not many people agree with me. Shanali 852, have you encountered a Saul Goodman kind of lawyer? I've only seen one or two of those episodes, so I'm not really sure what you're characterizing him as. I've met a lot of characters, including some who became judges. The creativist says I take my videos down too. Yeah, no, it depends, you know. I've also taken videos down and reshot them. So I've told this before. I started my channel in 2014. It's 11 years ago now. And I put up some videos in the first year on very good topics that did nothing. Nobody saw them. Nobody ever saw them. And so in later years, I'm going through my back catalog. I'm like, there's a video, it's got like 500 views. So I reshoot the video, upload it, and it gets 50,000 views. That's what I gain, you know? So Signatus says, I watched every video you did on both channels over the last 3 years. You're saying you watched every video I have up and it took you 3 years or what? Johnny Quest says there was that guy from Polk High that had 4 touchdowns in a single game. Al. Isaac Bob Yorks, when I first found this channel, I tried to watch them all, and I think I managed to. At least the ones that are still up. Yeah, there's a few channels like that, but do any of you guys watch Itchy Boots? Itchy Boots, Norley Schoenmaker, the woman on the motorcycle. I just discovered her recently. Somebody sent me her book. Her publisher did. And I read the book. I'm like, oh my God, amazing book. And she rides her motorcycle all over the place. And she'll ride her motorcycle from like, the tip of South America up to Alaska, that kind of thing. And she wrote a book. She's got videos. But she'll do a season, and a season of 80 videos in it. And the videos are an hour long each. And I was rolling through these videos, and I'm trying to watch one a day, and I realized I'm never going to catch up because the videos are so long, but they're so good. They're so good. So if you get a chance, check her out. And she tells the story in the book that what happened was she's from Holland, and she actually has a degree in geology, and she was working for a company that was sending around the world working on big projects. And she had a relationship that fell apart, and she thought, something, let's try something new. And long story short, she winds up with a motorcycle just driving around places. And she's a woman traveling alone. And she traveled through Iraq, or she'll travel through Saudi Arabia, or she's traveled through 25 countries in Africa. And it's amazing and crazy. And it's just astounding that she's accomplished it. And she has an episode where she's riding her motorcycle down a dirt road in Africa, and she hits something, and there's an edit And she's laying there and she goes, I think I just broke my collarbone. And she did. And she had an inReach Garmin on her so she could send out messages. But while she was trying to find help, a truck stopped. And it was a guy who's a doctor who took her to a nearby hospital. And one of the guys in the truck got on her motorcycle and rode at the hospital for her. And then she had to go back to Holland for surgery. But it's astounding what she does. And she's one of those people where you look at what she's doing and you're like, this is what the internet was made for. And I've had friends of mine say, they should put her on television. No, no, no. If you put her on television, they would make her do all kinds of goofy stuff. And today we're going to do a challenge. And today we're going to do this. And we're going to go meet the mayor. And no, let her do what she does. She's doing it perfectly. So Out Secret's a solo female traveler, pretty beast. Oh, you have no idea. She'll be in some country over there, and she'll roll up to a checkpoint. She hands her passport over, and they go, "You're a woman? You traveling alone?" And I mean, she's been asking, "Where's your father?" She's in her 30s. "Where is your husband?" That kind of, and it's amazing. But she'll go through these border checkpoints and stuff. It's look her up, Itchy Boots. Just trust me, it's amazing. Vinny Sluga, 38. Happy Thanksgiving, Steve, from Rolling Meadows, Illinois. PDX yada yada says, I've watched her for years. I keep worrying about what might happen. She's gutsy. That's I've watched her, and don't get me wrong, I would never tell her how to live her life, but there have been some situations that she's put herself into where I'm like, and it's not like she's faking this stuff. I mean, she's going places, and she's got that bike loaded down with so much stuff. And one time she's cutting through, is in Saudi Arabia on some gravel track going through the mountains, and the bike tipped over and bent the pedal that you shift the gears with. And she happened to have an extra pedal with her and managed to get it out of there. So Overkill Pinball, can you put a Clippy on your set? You mean the clip that like Outseeker uses as his thumbnail there? I don't have one. No one's ever sent one in. Derailed Uncommon or Dr. Ailed Uncommon? Your video about cash seizures was the one that made me a sub, became a big topic when the veteran in Arizona had his life savings taken by a cop. Yes, and I know him. His name is Steven with a PH. Very nice guy. I met him at the Institute for Justice retreat a couple years ago. And the story is astounding, amazing. And you couldn't have picked a better guy to represent the victims or a worse guy to do that to if you're the cops. Because the guy is a Marine veteran who had cash on him. He's driving to give it to his daughter. And they pulled him over for following too close. And the cops is on camera. Well, I'm going to take it anyway. I'm not really sure, but I'll take it anyway. And when the Institute for Justice got involved, they gave him the money back so fast it would blow your mind. But they still have a lawsuit going, so there you go. Outseeker, I've got Itchy Boots open and a new tab for after this. Thanks to the probable rabbit hole. Yeah, pretty much. But like I said, the creativists love that old Cobra you got on the shelf back there. Beautiful car. You have a good taste. Well, I've got one. I'm not a real Cobra, but I've got a Cobra replica backdraft, and I've got a Viper and a Cobra. So the Viper and the Cobra are models of cars that I've got. And the turbine car, of course, I wrote a book about. And the winged car I wrote a book about. And there's a Tucker that's not on the set right now. I wrote a book about that also. Obvious Captain says, Steve turned me on to the IJ. So take his recommendations pretty seriously. I'll check her out. One of the things, and I don't mean to get all mushy on you guys here, but the Institute for Justice contacted me about 5 years ago and said, hey, you talk about us a lot. And I said, yes, I do. And they said, well, we appreciate that. We really do. And they invited me to come speak at their retreat that they do every couple of years. And I had some conversations with the people there, including Scott Bullock, who's the president. and chief counsel. And he told me, he goes, we know when you put up a video about us. He goes, their phones, figuratively speaking, start ringing off the hook. We start getting donations. And somebody goes, hey, Steve probably did a video about us. Somebody check. Oh, boy. So. Old Paint 71 says there was a woman kayaking around Lake Michigan posting videos. Yeah, and someone tracked her down. I remember hearing about that also. The thing about Nora Lee, I believe she's putting the videos up far enough past that it'd be harder to find her. But I've worried about that also. But she's had her motorcycle stolen at least twice. Now, both times she got it back. But the sad part is that she checks into a hotel someplace and they go, you got to leave your thing parked in the street. So MH0862 is ringing off the hook. Yes, that is a old saying about when phones were on walls and figuratively speaking, they ring so much that they would come off the hook. Ringing off the hook. Chuck Whitehead, is there a minimum donation? I'm not sure. I'm assuming if you're using a card, probably, but I don't know. But if you mailed them cash, I'm sure they'll take it, but I don't know. Lion Zookeeper missed the first half of the show. Speaking of the Turbine Car, how did your presentation this past week go? Went very, very well. When is the updated book coming out? I will do it again now. The updated book is out now. This is it. Expanded edition with a new foreword by Jay Leno. And it has a big new section in the back that begins 2020's update. And I believe it's almost 50 pages. And it has all kinds of cool stuff, including photographs. There's Jay's car in the zoo. And, there's me talking on camera about me. No, talking about the Turbine Car. And so this book is now out. So if you want a copy of this book and you want me to sign it, they're $25. And what you do, we've done this before, is you're going to email me at this email address. Make sure I spelled it right, steve@lehtoslaw.com. And you're going to put the word book in the subject line. I will then email you an invoice. It'll come from Square, and you'll pay the invoice via Square. I'll get notified that you paid it. I will then sign and send the book to you. This can only be done right now in the United States of America. So I cannot do this to Canada, England, Sweden, or any other place. I'm sorry, but the postage is prohibitive, and also it's confusing. And I've had people say, but Steve, I'm willing to pay it. Yeah, but if I mail a book to Australia, it might just never get there. So, and by the way, I do also have American Murder House books available as well. That book is $15. So if you wanted them both, you put in the subject, the actual text of the email, both books. But if you want the Turbine Car book, put Turbine Car book. Okay. And send those emails and I will invoice you and then I'll sign it and mail it to you. And we'll get them out pretty quickly. So last time I did this, I had to do 700 or 800, but I'm hoping on a live stream, there's only a few hundred people here. So maybe I won't wear my arm out. And by the way, I have to say this also, is if you are in the southeastern Michigan area, and even a little more generously, if you're in like northern Ohio, possibly Indiana, and you have a library or a historical society or some other group of people that meets who would like to have a speaker come in and talk, I have a presentation I do about the Turbine Car, which is what I did in Roseville this past week. We had a great audience, and 45 minutes. I have all kinds of images that did not make it into the book. I tell the whole story, and then I take questions, and then I sit down and sign books for people if they want to buy books from me, and I meet a lot of people that way, and it's a lot of fun. So every time a new book of mine comes out, I spend a lot of time out speaking. I'll do book signings, also go to stores and sell books, but Speaking in the store is not quite the same, but it's historical societies, car clubs, libraries, things like that. If you're interested in that, use the same email address, put speaking or something like that in the subject line, and I'll probably figure it out. So there you go. Scott Winters checking for Virginia Beach, Virginia. 62 degrees and sunny. Derailed uncommon. When are you going to post some trials? That'd be a great or better a sit down with a lawyer on a case. You both represented the opposition. Um, yeah, most of the trials I've done have transcripts, not videos. So overkill pinball. Is it legal to put an item on a Black Friday sale but not reduce the cost? Depends on the state you're in. Some states will say there's nothing wrong with that. It's up to you to see. I mean, I've seen stuff that's been placed on sale that's the same price, but some states have a law specifically saying you can't say something's on sale unless it is reduced enough to justify that. It depends on how it was, how it's described in your state. Johnny Z, will you sign the book Paid in Full? There's an old episode of David Letterman where he takes questions from the audience, but they're all set up questions. It's a joke. That's the joke. So a guy comes at the microphone. He goes, "Mr. Letterman, can I have your autograph?" And David goes, "Well, I don't normally sign autographs, but you know, it's the question. Sure, come on down." And the guy comes down. He opens up a folder and he goes, "Okay, sign here, initial here," like a bunch of legal documents. Oh. LGRFBS. I know that shipping cost. I shipped a plastic lock to Lock Lab years ago, and that run $40 US. Yeah, no, I, I've got a very good friend in New Zealand, and I also have good friends in Australia. And I said, I'm gonna bite the bullet. I'm gonna go send books to them. And the cost of the shipping was just crazy. And even shipping to Canada, I can see Canada from where I live, almost. No, it costs a fortune. Costs a fortune. The Prodigal Stranger, for your next book, could you do a collection of articles you wrote for the car magazines? Actually, the problem is I think most of them own the rights to those. I did at one point in time gather up all of the columns I wrote for Opposite Lock, which was several hundred. And I have them because Opposite Lock went away when Jalopnik got sold to the new corporation, new corporate owners. And I have them all, but a lot of them involve photographs. And I'm like, oh, so I never did anything with that. But I actually have all of my articles from Opposite Lock, which is what I wrote for before I wrote for Jalopnik, who I wrote for before I wrote for Road and Track, who I wrote for before I started doing a podcast. So, Stuff Writer, I'd like to see a detailed talk or lecture about the Timothy Masters case. It's interesting. There's stuff out there about that case, as well as the book I wrote with Timothy. But yeah, I've never put together a presentation on that. I probably should. Matthias F. Lou, or is it Flu? Greetings from Malmo in Sweden. Today we're traveling again. Matthias is getting around up there, all over the North countries. Yeah, William Page, 622. There was a tire recycling plant where they ground up the tires in Odessa, Texas, and used the product in asphalt for road surfacing, but they went out of business because the cost could not be recouped. And again, they've got ideas of things they can do, but they're not yet cost effective enough to make it profitable for people to go around and pick up old tires. Leon says Walmart will often have items on sale, but the regular price is suddenly higher. And then after the sale is over, the regular price drops back to normal. There were a couple companies in Michigan that for years, every single week on the back page of the TV guide, the local TV guide, they were running a sale. Weight loss clinics, exercise places, Vic Tanny's, that kind of place. And They got in trouble because the Secretary of State, or not, the AG says you can't claim to always be on sale. You're not having a sale constantly. Otherwise, that's the normal price. It's got to mean something, doesn't it? MH0862, could you just take some books over to Windsor and mail them from there? But of course, if you're crossing the border, anything to declare, yeah, I'm bringing a case of books over. I don't know. They might charge me some kind of import duties or something. 858 Bill, this might be a longer answer than you can give here, but I'm curious. If you as a lawyer are intimately familiar with the law in the courts, why would you hire a lawyer? That's a good question. The answer is not that long. There's two reasons. One is if I'm being sued, for instance, and I have been, I did a video about that. I hired a guy who specialized in defending people in lawsuits. I don't defend a lot of people in lawsuits, and you think differently. So you want to hire somebody who specializes in what you need somebody for. Second of all, you want somebody who you trust who can give you some balance, and you don't want to become that person who is so blinded by your own knowledge or feelings about the case to where you can't think straight. So I'd much rather have someone else come in and say, hey, Steve, here's what's happening with your case. Here's what I think. And if I say, this, he's gonna say, okay, but Steve, let me explain that to you. And so that's why. You never want to encounter somebody who is an attorney representing themselves, because it's going to be a nightmare. It's just going to be a nightmare. Mike 7050 says, I finished your Preston Tucker book and again enjoyed your easygoing storytelling style, making finances and car tech easy to digest. The funny part about the Tucker book is that while he was on trial for his life at one end of the courthouse, down at the other end, his company had been forced into bankruptcy. And as you can imagine, bankruptcy court is not an exciting place to tell stories. And so I struggled with that about how to work the how to work the bankruptcy part of the story in there without it just grinding to a halt. $858 Bill, good answer. Good answer. Good answer. It's like it's like on Family Feud. Aaron Freeman, who remembers Lord of the Rings, the movie or the book? One 116-356. I work in aviation. I doubt Steve knows federal aviation regulations well enough to defend me if I get sued. You are correct, and I guarantee you there's somebody out there who does specialize in it, and you want them. And so it's kind of like the idea that if you have a medical issue, you go to a doctor. What kind of doctor? Depends on the medical issue. I wouldn't go to an eye doctor. Hey, look at my foot, right? Oh, blah blah blah. Road to Revenge. Sisu 2. Good movie. Saw it yesterday. Was laughing and applauding out loud during the movie at appropriate times. Wasn't singing along like it was wicked. Outseeker, do you have enough microphones back there? I haven't counted. I've actually got more. That's only about half my microphones, but those are the most picturesque of them. But there's a gold one that stands up. It's in the front. It's gold. And it's got a black section on the bottom. And I saw an episode of The Twilight Zone yesterday where a guy was using that microphone. I thought, wow, that's my microphone. The creativist says that the Giants are beating the Lions at halftime 20-14. Seems about right. Jason Brindamar is about to scratch off some lottery tickets. Wish me luck. Do I get a third? The Prodigal Stranger says, I believe you have 12 on the set. That sounds about right. There's really only one microphone I have that's really nice. It should be up there. And it's the gold one that harmonica players often put in their hand when they're playing harmonica. And I've got one of those, but I don't have a stand for it. And I used to have it laying on its side up there, and I ran out of space, so I took it down. Jacob Porto, Steve's a Twilight fan. Twilight Zone, different thing, very different thing. Oh, Chuck Whitehead would love to own one of those Bob Barker skinny microphones, like the ones that they also used on Match Game with Gene Rayburn. Is it Gene Rayburn? Back when game shows were just stupid, but they try to be funny, and they bring on people like Jamie Farr as stars. Can you imagine back in the old days? You work for a while on television, you can't get work, so you wind up on Love Boat. Then you wind up as somebody on Match Game. What they paid? Wade Pittenger, anyone here from Philadelphia? And if so, is it sunny? I would Seeker Twilight Zone was rad when I was a kid. Yeah, Twilight Zone, Outer Limits, and Night Gallery. I remember Night Gallery. That was a scary one. Image dock races, unfortunately, don't make stands for harmonica mics. Well, this is not a harmonica mic in that sense. It's simply a microphone that many harmonica users use because of the way it fits in your hand. But it's got a base that you could put on a stand. You could. MH08 Match Game was hilarious. Some of the questions are just stupid. Bruin Walker 90, I love your channel. Carrie Mache, Jamie Farr got started with Red Skelton? Really? Wow. Believe in yourself. I have fond memories of Paul Lynde's sense of humor on Hollywood Squares. Paul Lynde. The guy was a character, and he was operating at a time when he didn't have to come out and say anything, but everybody kind of knew. But he was also always walking that real fine line. And remember, he's on network television, so the line is a little further in than it normally could be. So, Dan Boyd, I never saw Outer Limits, but I have seen most Twilight Zone episodes. Yeah, Outer Limits was not as well known, I don't think. Twilight Zone is unusual because there are some classic episodes, and then there's some that you're like, oh, I forgot about this one. And some are just odd, but they were always designed to make you think. In many respects, Twilight Zone was short stories on TV. If you read a lot of short stories, you know that it's a story that's a certain length. And the Twilight Zone episodes are often just a short story with a twist or two to make you think about something. So, KC, did any of your Finnish speaking family use the word sisu? If so, what did you understand it to mean? Well, not only did we use it, I mean, I've got a skateboard when I was in high school that's got a sisu sticker on it. Okay. I never put a sisu sticker on my car only because the stickers are always white and blue and it wouldn't match anything I own. But sisu is not translatable directly into English, but it is a word that defines a toughness or a durability that Finns have when, in essence, everything is against them, but they rise up and they are going to triumph anyway. And you would often hear people refer that to, for instance, Finland putting up a fight against the Russians, that kind of thing. And so in the movie Sisu, the good guy has the cards kind of stacked against him. And if you're looking at this as a hero's journey, he has to overcome a lot of obstacles. And the way he overcomes them, the average person could not do, but he does because he's got Sisu. Now, in the movie at the beginning, they actually put on the screen a definition, which is similar to what I just told you. But again, because it's not definable. But yeah, of course. Every person who's lived in a Finnish community, whether they're Finnish or not, knows the two words, Sisu and sauna. And it's not sauna, it's sauna, Sauna. It's also pretty much the only word from Finnish that has been adopted into the English language. But my grandparents, for instance, had a cabin on Lake Superior, and out back was a sauna. And yeah, you go out and you go out and you sit in that little building there, and you cook. So Tindor Tailgater, Land of the Giants. Yeah, that one was a little bit, I think, after my time. But isn't that like really bad stop motion photography? Wade Pittenger, who slept with more alien women, Kirk or Picard? I didn't watch The Next Generation, so I don't know about Picard, but I know that I saw an article the other day about Kirk, and he really only loved one of them. Oh. Nailhead, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy is first a suspense radio teleplay. Yeah, you've got to read some of Douglas Adams' stuff where he's talking about how he came up with the idea of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And originally it was a radio program, and he wasn't sure how long it was going to last, and so he would make the episodes into cliffhangers, and then, oh, I got more time, And the funny part is that after it was on the radio, then it was on television, then it was a book, and then later on, of course, they did make a movie. And if you look at the radio episodes, they're not in the same order as the TV episodes, and even none of them are in the same order as the first book, the storylines and stuff. And in one of the books I've got, he talks about even that and how funny that was to do that. But it is pretty funny. Now, Isaac Bob York says it is called sauna in every language, but Swedish, where it is called a bastu, but we do call it a sauna sometimes. But bastu is the most common. I've never heard that before, but I know obviously Sweden and Finland are neighbors, and they share a lot of language back and forth. Olive Llama. Hey, Steve. Hey, Olive Llama. The creative is pumpkin pie or pecan pie. Pumpkin with lots of whipped cream, and pumpkin pie is optional. Oh boy. Tin Door Tailgate of the Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. That's another one. I remember that being, there was a time it was all exploration stuff, Lost in Space, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. Image Doc Ray, did you ever read Vonnegut? No, I didn't. I'm familiar with his stuff. Of course, he made a cameo in Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield. One of the greatest joke cameos of all time. And but I've never read his books. I'm familiar with them, but I've not read them. I know some of them were made into movies that didn't do too well, but it's so hard to translate sometimes. Vontar, just found you online. By the way, the bees have been returned. Yes, we talked about that earlier. Outseeker, just a bowl of whipped cream. Who needs a bowl? You just take the can. I'm talking about the stuff in a can. And you spray it in your mouth. Oh, Charlie's the man says it's not pronounced pecan, it's pronounced pecan. Oh, we love our pronunciation battles, don't we? The funny part is that a lot of times I will over enunciate something specifically because I want to make sure people know what I'm saying. But no one ever understands that either. How do the British say it? How does New Orleans say it? How do Texans say it? But nobody agrees. Nobody agrees. Nobody knows. Image Doc Ray Vonnegut's Slaughterhouse 5 is a great movie. I've seen parts of it, never seen the whole thing. Fantastic Voyage, G Keyman 565. Of course, remember that. Yes, Fatty Butterpants remembers that Vonnegut did not get a good grade on the paper about himself and back to school. Earthbound Misfit, Coal Shack the Night Stalker. We've mentioned this one before. Very odd series. Almost like a cross between, like, I don't know, the Rockford Files and the X Files. You know what I'm saying? Like 116356. Did you ever hear Art Bell interview Leonard Nimoy? No, I didn't know he did. Iggy Rick says all Fruit Loops have the same flavor. Doesn't surprise me at all. I mean, you know, MHO 862. I liked Coal Shack also. The Creativist says sweet potato pie is fantastic, but hard to find in Michigan unless you're near Caro. Caro. Up there in Tuscola County. Steve G, have you read Lonesome Dove? No, I have not. Overkill Pinball. Fruity Pebbles are better than Fruit Loops. What about Quisp? Quisp and Quake. Pure sugar. Just different shapes of almost pure sugar. Earthbound Misfits' Coal Shack had only 20 episodes. And that was back when they probably did more than that in one season. I seem to recall it struggled with the ratings because people either loved it or hated it, and a lot more just didn't know what it was. Earthbound Misfit, I loved Quisp. Quisp. You always hear that, like, oh, by the way, do you know they still make that, like, in the Philippines or something? I don't know about the Philippines, but you often hear that some weird food is still available someplace else. SKS Yugo raspberry rhubarb pie. Bob D, what are your thoughts on the Taco Bell Baja Blast pie? See, the funny part is without a photograph next to it, I couldn't even guess. Is that a dessert, or is that a new formation? Because everything Taco Bell sells is the same. It's just what it's wrapped in or how it's shoveled into the holder, right? So I'm guessing, but what makes it a blast? Dark Shadows, Barnabas Collins, 858 Bill. And they made it into a movie, and I watched part of the movie, and I just didn't get it. Dan Boyd, Taco Bell used to be so good. Years ago, I worked with a guy, and he'd go, I'm going to Taco Bell. You want anything? I would go, yeah, $10. And he would just buy a bunch of, because it's all this, doesn't matter. It's all the same. He'd come back, toss a bag on my desk. I'd flip him $10. And by the way, he's probably making money because it's not that expensive. But 116356 says I drive through Caro when I go to Caseville. So are you coming from the southeast or something? I know Caro quite well. Caro's a really neat little town. Steve BM2 likes Chipotle and Cava now. I'm more into Qdoba. I like Qdoba. There is a Chipotle near the Qdoba. I go to Qdoba. So can I tell you? Dan Boyd, I could eat 6 burritos when I was in 8th grade. How'd you feel afterwards? The Creativist, I grew up in Caro. Yeah, Leon says my coworkers would say, "You fly, I'll buy." I've worked places they said that too. But I just remember there was a Burger King years ago near one of my offices that never got the orders right. And I apologize if I've told the story before, but it's a fun one. Whenever I went there, they'd always get my order wrong. It didn't matter what it was. So I'd go there knowing I was going to get something other than what I ordered. And I'd go back to the office and I ordered a hamburger and I got a fish sandwich. I'd order a Whopper, I'd get something else. And it didn't matter. And one day there was a van with a family behind me. And I pull up the window and they had you pay at one window and you got your food at the other. I paid the correct amount at the first window, correct amount. Pull up the second window and the woman starts handing me bags and I just taking them. Then she hands over two things of drinks and I take them. Thank you. And I drive off. And I go back to my office. I go, guys, food for everybody. Food for everybody. And what had happened was they just never kept straight who was who. And so then people behind me pulled up, and I guarantee you they're like, no, we didn't order just a Whopper and fries. We ordered all the stuff you gave that guy. But I'm sure they got their food. So I don't feel bad about that at all. I thought that was the way the universe balanced out the fact that I got the wrong food every other time I went there. I got the wrong food that time too. So was it unjust enrichment? I don't think so. Chuck Whitehead says you can't eat Taco Bell if you like fresh homemade tacos. Well, exactly. Russell 3380 with McDonald's like that, always wrong. What I like is the McDonald's that I know of that's not that far away, where there's two lanes that then pile into one lane. And people are taking turns. And one time I finished placing my order, and the woman over here is placing her order. And just as the car in front of me pulls forward, she rams her car in front of mine. And it pretends like she can't see me. And she gets up the window, and they actually waved her forward and made her wait, and they gave me my food. This isn't a contest, people. We're trying to be civil here and get our food. We're all hungry. We're all hungry. 858 Bill, Red Lobster or Outback? I like Outback. I haven't been to Red Lobster in years, but I like Outback. Get a steak there. It's always good. The bloomin' onion thing's a little bit much, but no. And bread's not bad either. Daniel Kester worked at a Burger King for a bit. The creativist says Outback by far. Mark Miller, Pizza Hut added apple pies to their menu? Why? Pizza Hut makes decent pizza for what they are. But, if you're known for pizza, stick to pizza. Stop Spam and Am says they have all the original episodes of Dark Shadows on Amazon Prime. Oh, the creativist says, yeah, but the biscuits at Red Lobster, yeah, the biscuits are famous. It's one of those things where people come in, and that's actually one of the items that people say they go there for, is the biscuits. So, Dan Boyd likes Domino's Pizza, my favorite cheap chain pizza. Yeah, in Michigan, we're kind of overrun by pizza. Domino's and Little Caesars and Hungry Howie's and Cottage Inn, and there's a bunch of independents around. And I stopped ordering from the chains a long, long time ago. I think I told the story. The last time I ordered from a chain, I won't say which one, but placed the call. They said, okay, they're going to deliver it 20, 25 minutes. Half hour passes and nothing. So I called the store and I go, hey, I placed an order. And the woman goes, hang on. It'll be there in 20 to 25 minutes. I said, no, that's what you said the first time. And she goes, well, no, it hasn't been made yet. And I go, I don't understand. She goes, well, we're backed up. And I said, so why didn't you tell me 45 minutes at the front end and I wouldn't be making this phone call? She goes, 20 to 25 minutes, you'll have your food. I said, fine. I hung up. Do I need to tell you what happened a half hour later? I called again. She goes, 20. I go, I've talked to you already once. You already told me that. She goes, you'll have it in 2025. I go, I don't want it anymore. And she goes, well, at this point, it's free. We'll give it to you. So I said, okay. And about 45 minutes later, a guy pulls in my driveway with a cold pizza. And the guy gets out and walks up to me. He goes, I'm so sorry. I am so sorry. He goes, and he starts apologizing. I go, it's not your fault. I know it's not your fault. And he goes, but the pizza's free. I tipped him. But I never ordered from them again. Have not gone back there. I will not go back there. I refuse. Refuse. If you're that backed up, you don't lie to people, make them wait. You tell them, because being backed up is good. But oh my God. So that was the last time I ordered a pizza from a chain restaurant. And I'm done with that for a while. There's some good locals near me that are just one-offs, and they do great stuff. So I like them. But that's going to wrap it for me. I'm going to talk to you guys again next week like I always do. Have a great Thanksgiving. And in the meantime, as noted before, if you want a copy of my new Chrysler Turban Car book, expanded edition, signed by me and mailed to you in the United States, go to this email address and email me at that address and put the word book in the subject line. I will invoice you. The book is $25. That includes postage, me signing, includes the envelope. That's it. And then if you do want the American Murder House book, I've still got these in stock. Also, this is $15. This is $25. I'll sign them both. Like I said, anywhere in the U.S. And there you go. Otherwise, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.